Mr. Adams, the conversations and meetings with the IGI, you said in the ad hoc committee that the IGI himself called you. You recall that was your testimony? Because in your statement, you say, in this statement that we are looking at, in 245, you say you were contacted by the office, which could be anyone in that office. You do recall that in the ad hoc committee, you
Yes,
said
ma'am.
Mr. Faisal himself did call you.
Yes, ma'am.
And when he called you, had you had any prior contact with him? Did you know who he was? Had you met him somewhere? Had someone ever referred you or mentioned him to you?
I had heard of the office of the IGIMM, and I actually made a mistake at the ad hoc, to be honest with you. When I'm writing it down a second time, I realized that. And I said to myself, but at the ad hoc, anyway. So what happens is I get a call from the office of the IGI. It was a female, I can't remember her name. And she told me the IGI had asked her to make contact with me.
But how could you make that kind of mistake, that it's the IGI himself that called you? It's a very specific person. It's a head of office, and who holds a very important position. How could you possibly make a mistake that he called you?
It is, in my estimation, Commissioner Baloyi, it was a very stupid mistake to make, a rudimentary one, but it was not intended to mislead anyone, because the call was from the IGI, but by his office. So I did make it. It was a very stupid, a casual, stupid mistake. And I do own it. I accept that. And as a matter of fact, as I was writing my statement, I knew the contradiction, but I put down what actually happened.
But if you pick up the contradiction, why are you not explaining it in your statement? Because it is quite a serious allegation or fact, if it happened. That the IGI himself called you. That's very important. And if at the time of drafting your statement you realize that I made a mistake, why are you not correcting that in the statement?
I didn't think of the affidavit, my affidavit to you, as being something that, well, it shouldn't contradict what I said at the ad hoc, but I made a mistake at the ad hoc. And in hindsight and with what you've taught me now, I should have actually corrected myself in the affidavit.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry about that, Commissioner.
No, you don't. It's okay.
No,
I guess we'll have to make our conclusions about it. It's difficult, I must say, speaking for myself.
And that's why I apologize, because I'm giving you extra work. I'm sorry, Commissioner.
It's very difficult for me to accept, let me say, to accept that nearly a year later, in your statement to us, you say, oh, I made a mistake back then when I said it was the IGI, and one has to decide what do we do with that, because you either lied to the ad hoc committee, and that's the impression you left them with. And or you're lying to us now when you say I made a mistake back then. One of these two institutions must hold you to have lied under oath. You accept that?
What I do accept, Commissioner, is that I made a mistake in front of the ad hoc committee, and I'm here admitting to the mistake and owning up to it and telling you that this is the correct version. I didn't. There's nothing in it for me. To say anything like that. I made a genuine, stupid, sloppy mistake, and I own it. I own the mistake. And I apologize to you for giving you another conclusion to have to reach.
Well, I know you say there's nothing in it for you. I want to suggest one possible explanation is you might have now realized, oops, I shouldn't have said that in the ad hoc committee. I shouldn't have disclosed that it's the IGI himself that called me, because it is problematic that the IGI would have called you and you would have to explain that conversation. How did it come about that he knew to contact you? So you might have belatedly realized that is problematic and I need to fix it. That's one possible explanation.
No, definitely, Commissioner. And
Okay, you accept that.
A disputed affidavit, allegations of funding for the political task team, and an admission that he misled Police Minister Sansom Mchunu have placed National Coloured Congress Member of Parliament Fadel Adams under intense scrutiny at the Mahlang Commission of Inquiry. Adams, the principal complainant in the corruption investigation involving Crime Intelligence Boss, Lieutenant General Tombisani Khumalo, and several senior officers, clashed with evidence previously given by a former investigating directorate against corruption IDEC head, Advocate Andre Johnson. At the center of the dispute is Adams' Section 27 referral to IDEC. Adams told the commission that his referral contained allegations relating to the KwaZulu-Natal political killings task team, including concerns about the promotion of officers attached to the task team and the alleged use of crime intelligence funds to finance its operations. Adams told the commissioners that I mentioned the PKTT. His evidence directly contradicted Johnson's testimony. Johnson previously told the commission that Adams' referral contained no allegations concerning the political killings task team. She also repeatedly maintained that IDEC was not investigating the task team, which was overseen by Khumalo. However, the affidavit presented to the commission by Johnson as Adams' referral does not contain the allegations Adams says he made. The discrepancy prompted Commissioners Mbuyiseni Mahlanga, Sesi Baloyi, and Sandile Khumalo to probe whether the document had been fabricated, altered, or otherwise tampered with. Adams further told the commission that he had opened a criminal case against IDEC and its chief investigator, Dylan Perumal, over the manner in which his complaint was handled. The investigation subsequently collapsed. But the disputed affidavit was not only the issue confronting Adams. He also conceded that he had misled Mchunu when he told the minister that corruption dockets involving senior crime intelligence officers had been intercepted and that police had interfered with investigations. Adams had opened cases in Cape Town on October 29, 2025, followed by further cases in Gauteng 2 days later. On October 31, he emailed Mchunu claiming that he had been informed that the dockets had been intercepted in both provinces. Commission evidence leader Advocate Lee Sejels Ncube pressed Adams on why he had relayed the allegations to the minister before verifying it without relevant police stations. Adams attributed the information to the late Major General Andrew Lincoln, a veteran police officer who had served on former President Nelson Mandela's security detail. Sejels Ncube was blunt in his response and said, "No, Adams, you have the case number now. You cannot rely on a dead man every time. It is unacceptable." The exchange opened another front in the increasingly contentious hearing, the role of Lincoln in Fadel's allegations against senior crime intelligence officials. Professor Brian Williams rejected claims that Lincoln had encouraged Adams to pursue criminal charges against the officers. Williams described himself as a lifelong friend, brother, and comrade of Lincoln, said he felt compelled to correct what he regarded as a misleading portrayal of the late general. Williams said, "As a lifelong friend, brother, and comrade of General Lincoln, and as someone whom Andre publicly identified as his mentor, I feel compelled to place the following on record. I have noted with deep concern and dismay the statements reportedly made by Mr. Fadel Adams during his appearance before the Mahlang Commission, in which he has sought to implicate the late General Andre Lincoln in decisions and conduct attributed to Mr. Adams." Williams said Lincoln held General Mkhwanazi in the highest regard and maintained that he would never have encouraged or condoned unlawful or unethical conduct. He also described his relationship with Lincoln as one built on deep personal trust, friendship, and comradeship, saying the late general had publicly acknowledged Williams as the person who introduced him to the ANC liberation politics through Umkhonto weSizwe. Williams rejected any attempt to portray Lincoln as having encouraged, facilitated, or endorsed unlawful or unethical behavior, and said sadly Andre is no longer alive to respond to these allegations, also place his own version of events before the commission. Williams argued that Lincoln's name should therefore not be invoked in a way that unfairly attributes motives, decisions, or actions to him that he is no longer able to address. He criticized Adams for bringing Lincoln into matters arising from his own testimony and said the commission should carefully scrutinize the evidence before it. He said it is regrettable that Mr. Adams has chosen to draw the late General Lincoln into matters arising from his own testimony. He called on the Matlang Commission to assess the credibility and reliability of the evidence presented before making its findings. The competing accounts have left the Commission grappling with two fundamental questions: whether Adams' original referral was altered or incomplete, and how much weight should be attached to information he relied upon when making serious allegations against senior police officials. With Adams' evidence now colliding with testimony from former IDEC leadership and a close associate of Lincoln challenging his version of events, the commission faces a widening dispute over the credibility, provenance, and handling of the allegations at the heart of the investigation. What's your take on this one, people? Thanks for watching. Please subscribe for more news.